Hey everyone, Halo Infinite has been out for about a week and we all have had enough time that solid thoughts are starting to form about the game. People are enjoying it, but there's also quite a lot of room for improvement, and in this video I'd like to discuss my views on the game, what I think really works and what I think could use improvement, and of course what I also think needs to be seriously reconsidered, or at least reworked. 343 is technically calling this a beta, and I've seen that term actually thrown around online in an attempt to deflect criticism about the game's lack of content, playlists, and just the business model. And I want to remind folks that 343 themselves said that this beta is the game's multiplayer content complete. What we play now is more or less what we will be playing in a few weeks on December 8th. And what is a beta, if not for feedback? I want you guys to also chip in below about what you think works in the game, what you think doesn't really work, and what you think could improve. And I think we can all agree that there's a lot of room for improvement. And seeing as Halo Infinite demands quite a bit of your free time, this means you'll be exposed to quite a lot of blue light. Master Chief, ask me what blue light is. I'm glad you asked, Halo. Blue light is emitted from our devices like phones, TVs, and monitors, and a bit like the projectiles of a Covenant plasma rifle, too much exposure has its downsides. As someone who sits in front of a computer or monitor as a major part of his job, it affects my sleeping habits, especially during long editing sessions, and leaves my eyes feeling pretty exhausted at the end of the day. That's where GMG Performance comes in. Their glasses are designed to ensure that your eyes aren't blinded by your monitor's majesty, and while not being paralyzed or dumbstruck, I did find that long editing sessions are much less stressful when wearing a pair, my personal favorite being the black Oranos glasses. That's not to say the Optimizer pair aren't pretty snazzy themselves. For Black Friday, GMG is cutting the price of their glasses by a healthy 50%, and with their new, more effective generation of glasses available now, it's currently the only way to get a pair for such a low price. The sale will end on Friday at 11:59 p.m., so check the link down below, and a special thank you to GMG Performance for sponsoring the video. These glasses are pretty cool. So, off the bat, let's actually start with the good stuff. I think that Halo Infinite's gameplay works. It's not a classic-style Halo game, and it plays more like a standard modern shooter, but I think it does enough to bring the spirit of the classic games into its modern gameplay rhythms. The active scoping feels fast and responsive, the strafing and acceleration speeds feel solid, and overall the toned-down mobility from Halo 5 means that the maps, gunfights, and sandbox have a lot more breathing room. It's a Halo game that has a lot more room to be either competitive or more social depending on what's placed on the map in the sandbox. And that's actually a good segue into the topic of the weapon sandbox. So I actually think that the weapon sandbox for Halo Infinite works really well. Halo has had this problem for years of bloat where you had dozens, and in the case of Halo 5, hundreds of weapons, yet most of them felt like just reskins of already existing weapons. Halo Infinite cut a lot of fat out of the sandbox and started simple, and with that simplicity comes a lot of focus. Each weapon in Halo Infinite feels like it's trying to have a very specific identity for itself, and while I do think that some weapons, and definitely the vehicles, have less clearly defined roles than others, it's at least the strongest weapon sandbox that 343 has ever designed, and it's one that I think will only get stronger if 343 sticks to this role-focused way of designing weapons. I really love the alt-fire modes on some of them, and I want to see them experiment with more. The Heatwave and the Cinder Shot are some of Halo's most inventive weapons in years, and I'd love to have them kick off this trend of including alt-fire utilities for the weapons of Halo. It's really cool stuff, and I want to see more of it. Next up is the equipment system. I think Halo Infinite's equipment system is really strong, and there's a lot of different ways that people prefer to play, and the gadgets they pick up sort of form that gameplay role for them. Some people are more aggressive, landing trick shots with snipers and pulling off crazy kills. You know, your Mint Blitz types. But then there's people like me who are more support-focused, driving warthogs, defending flags, etc. I love the drop wall and sensor dart in Halo Infinite since I use these tools to assist my teammates during combat. Others, though, prefer the more aggressive gameplay of the grappling hook and the thruster. All of this is made even better by the fact that the equipment must be found first. It makes the utility of them even more impressive since you know that the person didn't just spawn with it for free. I hope that 343 adds more equipment that allows people to better play in the ways that they enjoy, and I would love to see 343 add more neutral equipment, seeing something that has no allegiance when deployed, like the bubble shield from Halo 3 or even a portable gravity lift, something the whole team could benefit from. And I also think the presentation of Halo Infinite really works. Well, the art style is, of course, very Halo, much nostalgia. What I mean by presentation is the cool factor of the game, the atmosphere. I'm not sure who it was at 343 that pitched the idea of a post-rock soundtrack, but it was an incredibly smart call. The soundtrack of the multiplayer suite wraps the game up in a layer of personality that not a lot of other shooter games have right now. It's really cool to hear a post-rock guitar playing and riffing on the Halo theme, only to then have an actual Halo choir join in alongside the guitar. The intros to the maps, the match-end themes, the art design of the world. Halo Infinite has a strong presentation and identity for itself. It's confident, and that confidence is kind of contagious. I really like the presentation. I also finally need to give credit to the audio direction. While the implementation needs a bit of work, mainly footsteps, the goals of the soundscape are great. Gunshots are clear and readable. Reloads are softer and less noisy, and the more alien weapons sound great with a healthy dose of nostalgia in the plasma pistol, or the weird alien-y sci-fi noises of the Forerunner weapons that make them stand out when someone is shooting them across the map. I enjoy the soundscape of Infinite a lot, minus the odd audio bug here and there. But those are all things that can improve, which is also probably where we should now move on to the things that I think could use improvement right now in the game. Okay. The first area of improvement for me is the HUD. 343 has done a lot to allow folks to customize their HUD in Halo Infinite, but I think the options could be pushed further. I'd love to see the ability to tweak the color of crosshairs and other HUD elements, as well as moving them about the screen for those who prefer their UI elements in different spots. I'd like to lower my crosshair, since that's how I prefer to play Halo on the MCC, and I think the game could also use a hit marker visual toggle, like Call of Duty and Battlefield, since sometimes that big hit marker visual can obscure enemies who I really need a clear aim at. This would be pretty useful in modes like SWAT or even snipers, whenever they're added to the game, which, believe me, we're gonna talk about that. And the next area of improvement I think the game could benefit from are streamlining the UI experience. When coming out of a match, you do this thing that a lot of Battle Royale games do where you aren't instantly queued back into matchmaking in a lobby of some kind. And while that may work for Battle Royales due to their typically long matches, Halo isn't a Battle Royale, and it's just kind of annoying to have to constantly re-enable match searching. It's also a bit annoying that we can't customize our stuff while a match is loading, since the game lets you explore the UI while a match is loading. You just aren't allowed to equip anything. And it feels like maybe aspects of the UI were not finished before launch. It gives off this sloppy and unfinished vibe. I'd like to see just a bit of polishing. And speaking about the customization, I think that could use some opening up. So the armor cores are a good idea. It allows players to have multiple armor presets that they can cycle between. But by locking pieces to specific cores, they're just limiting player expression. And if it's designed this way, to encourage spending, turning our armors into Halo's equivalent of Modern Warfare's operators, which have unique skins that can be sold, I wouldn't like that. Halo isn't Modern Warfare. Your armor is the player, and that thing is very modular. Or at least it used to be, until Halo 5 locked down armor customization, and Halo Infinite went even further. And what's funny is, even from a monetization standpoint, I don't think this works. This only makes me not want to buy things from the shop. When I open up that shop and I see something like a katana for sale, but it's only available for a specific armor core that I don't use, I'm not gonna buy that katana. It's useless to me. I would have bought it, though, if I could put it on anything I want. Which brings us to the coatings, which, like the armor cores, need to be made more flexible. Destiny 2 has a very similar system called shaders, only in Destiny, when you collect a shader, it can be applied to anything. Your boots, your gloves, your weapons, your vehicles, etc. What's also cool about these shaders is there are riffs on already existing shaders. You can find a blue shader, but then you'll find a rusty version, a scratchy version, a more polished version, and a matte version, etc., etc. There are a lot of shaders in Destiny 2, and a lot of options and a lot of variety that range across the whole color spectrum. In Halo, the coatings are very much locked down to specific armor cores and weapons. The coatings are also very color limited, and some are speculating that this was done so that 343 could double dip and sell you the same coating but for different weapons and armors. I really hope that that's not why they're doing this, but if 343's concern is the cost of creating multiple coatings, allow folks to enjoy the base coatings as is. Allow that to be where our personality and our choices can come out in the way that we customize our armor. armor, and then start monetizing the variants. Throw up the dirty, the shiny, the gold-plated whatever's up on the store and let people buy that. It would provide more variety for the community and more options. My partner Rebecca is the world's biggest Sanrio fan, so she was quite surprised and disappointed in the lack of pink or fluffier color options for her custom Spartan. This is a limitation she didn't have on the Master Chief Collection, which allows you to customize your colors based on what you want. If 343 truly believes that this coding system offers more variety than the classic color customization system, then they need to prove it, because right now, all I see is something that's very one-sided and not very player-focused. The MCC offers more player choice than these locked-down developer-made coatings that are selling for like $5, $7, even $20. As you can hear, I'm starting to now sound a little bit more critical, which is where we could move on to the things that I think need improvement, or at the very least, a complete rework. I like Halo Infinite a lot, and I'd like it a lot more if these issues were solved or reworked. So, off the bat, the business model and how it's affected the game needs to be reevaluated. Halo Infinite's first live event, as they're calling it, is a standard Halo game mode that used to have its own playlist. The game launched with 3 playlists: Big Team Battle, Ranked, and Social, and then a bot playlist. Right now, Halo Infinite has an astonishing lack of playlist variety, which is unusual for a Halo game, and people are worried that the reason for this lack of variety is so fan-favorite modes like Fiesta, Infection, SWAT, etc. can be deliberately withheld and used as temporary events to encourage people to buy microtransactions that are inappropriately expensive. When combined with the suspiciously slow pace of XP distribution and the unrewarding battle pass, Halo Infinite at least gives off the impression that it's withholding all the Halo fun that past games launched with for the sake of encouraging spending. Now listen, it's entirely possible that this wasn't their intention, but as the saying goes, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, chances are it's a duck. This looks bad, 343. People are reading into your intentions with this lack of content and the inappropriate pricing in the shop. Add more playlists, chill out a bit on the expensive microtransactions instantly after folks paid for the battle pass, and unlock that customization suite a bit. You'd earn a lot of goodwill for doing that. What I also think needs a lot of work is the theater mode. Halo 5's theater mode was pretty broken, not really that usable as a tool, and 343 unfortunately never really managed to get it working. When MCC came to PC, it was kind of refreshing to get a theater mode from Halo 3, ODST, and Reach that functioned fantastically and gave accurate replays of the matches, and worked without a hitch. So when I jumped into Halo Infinite to record this match currently and was met with crashes, broken UI elements, bugs, audio issues, and glitches, I was kind of stunned. The theater mode needs a lot of work right now, and what's sad is there's actually a couple of improvements from Halo 5 here. They allow you to see medals and moments of interest on your clips in the timeline, and the actual aiming in the theater mode looks less jerky and unnatural than Halo 5's theater mode, but until they put more work into polishing the bugs, stability, issues, and glitches, I might as well just pretend that theater mode isn't in Halo Infinite yet. With Halo 5, they more or less gave up on fixing the theater mode after a few attempts to polish it, and I really hope they don't just drop Infinite's theater mode too. And finally, what needs serious work is the custom games experience. There are a lot of modes and features that are flat out missing from custom games, and the fact that game modes like Fiesta are currently in matchmaking, but suspiciously unavailable in customs, is incredibly frustrating, especially after 343 had 6 years of feedback about Halo 5's lackluster game mode and custom games launch. I'm sure that they didn't intentionally want to look this way, but it gives off the impression that feedback was selectively listened to. The art team heard and applied our feedback from Halo 5. The music and sound team heard and applied our feedback. Even the sandbox team listened to people's criticisms and applied feedback. So why was feedback not applied when it came to custom games and game mode variety? The game needs more ways to play, and it needs them soon while eyes are on the game. No more waiting 7 months for the Infection game mode, 5 months for Griffball, etc. People enjoy Halo Infinite, but they're gonna get bored with just the 3 playlists and the temporary rotating playlist. And that concludes my initial impressions. There's a lot to like, but I also think there's a lot that needs to be improved, especially with the December 8th launch coming very soon. What would you guys like to contribute to the list? Leave it down below in the comments section, and as always, thank you to the channel members. You guys are, of course, pretty snazzy. That's it, the video's done now.